used either name in an attempt to defraud them.
Your answer was not responsive. Just answer that question, but you can explain any answer.
Okay. No, nobody did, but based upon my investigation, like I say, I learned that you were subject to a $100 reinstatement fee, and based upon your information that you provided to me, as far as it was easier to get the name changed, and you lack of interest in working with the Social Security Agency to fix it, I would say that yes, you were doing that to avoid paying the Department of Labor $100.
Is there a victim in this case?
I'm sorry.
Is there a victim in this case?
State of New Hampshire.
What is the state?
The state of New Hampshire, it's the boundaries defined by the, it's the boundaries that are defined as the, where we reside at here in New Hampshire.
So you're saying I victimized boundaries?
You victimize the people of New Hampshire, the state of New Hampshire.
So even though no one was complaining to you about being victimized, it's your position that the people, all of them, are the victim.
Well, Supervisor Overton complained to me about the driver's license issue.
But he didn't claim that he was damaged personally.
He didn't claim he was damaged personally, but one conservative argued that the amount of time that was taken to investigate this case because of your actions, those tax dollars probably could have been spent on something else if we had not committed these actions.
Were you ever made aware that I'm a top radio personality?
Yes,
How'd you find that out?
I know that you mentioned that. In fact, it was on your business card when you gave it to me, the United Troop C, for the phone number you provided.
Are you aware that it's common for media personalities to use names not given to them in will?
Yes.
Is the use of two names, just on its own, evidence of criminal activity?
The use of two names? The use of two names? No, it's not.
Your report indicates in several places, I read it as part of discovery, that I have used two names for various things over several years. You indicated that you've done some research in Florida, looking at titles on cars, and also looking at the clerk of court, or not clerk of court, the clerk, the city clerk in their voter records. So you had seen that I had used two names over the years. Did you know that in New Hampshire it's legal to use any name that you choose so long as it's not for a fraudulent criminal purpose?
If you're referring to the Moskowitz v. Moskowitz decision, I am aware of that decision.
So just to clarify, you are aware that it's legal to use any name you choose so long as it's not for criminal or fraudulent purposes?
Yes.
If you believe that it were legal to use a chosen name in addition to your birth name, then neither of those names would be false to you, correct?
I apologize. What's the question?
So if you believe that it were legal, as I do, that to use a chosen name in addition to your birth name, so to use two names, then neither of those names would be false to you.
Well, it depends on how you're using the names. It depends on the situation, such as the New Hampshire driver's license application. The Department of Safety rules require that you use your legal name. So if you use a name that is not your legal name, then that would be illegal.
Is it possible? I didn't know that.
I'm pretty certain that ignorance of the law is not justification of violating the law. But it is possible.
It is possible. Is it possible that my long-time use of both my birth and chosen names was not done for fraudulent, criminal, or wrongful purpose?
I would argue that it was. In fact, I ultimately forwarded over the use of the Freeman name on the voter applications, the affidavits, to the State Department's Attorney General's office for review for voter fraud.
Do you know if they've moved forward on that?
I do not know.
So you didn't really answer the question. Is it possible that long-time use of both names was not done for fraudulent criminal or wrong?
I think I did answer that, I stated that I believe that it was.
You believe that it was, but is it possible that it wasn't?
It's possible it wasn't, but I believe that it was.
Okay, I have another exhibit here.
Well, tell me what it is, please.
So this is from the New Hampshire Circuit Court, is a document about, this is a document that you receive after completing the legal name change. It goes over a few different suggestions, or
Is that part of the other exhibit already, or is it something different?
it's something different.
Okay, I don't know if this is the proper witness to raise a question with on that.
May I approach?
Sure. Let him see what you have first, unless he's already seen it.
You got it.
Nay, this one just did a different word. Just asking for identify what that is first.
Yeah, can you identify what's in front of you?
It says Service Center, New Hampshire Circuit Court, information for persons obtaining obtaining a name change.
Can you read for me the number 2 on that list?
One second. Number 2 says you will remain obligated and duty-bound to complete and perform all contractual obligations assumed under your old name, whether those obligations are financial or personal in nature.
Now, when you read that, does that statement mean that my given name doesn't just go away when I get a name change through probate?
It means that anything that you may, to me, that means that if you owe money to someone in the past, that just because you've changed your name does not alleviate you from those financial burdens. So that changing your name just doesn't prove automatically rewrite you as a new person.
Can you also read number 5?
Number 5, you are also under an obligation to change any other records identifying you by your old name. It is your responsibility to notify any and all parties of organizations in custody or in possession of such records of your name change so that any rights or benefits pertaining to such records will not be impaired or lost.
Okay. Now, does that line give a time frame for the alleged obligation to change those other records?
It does not indicate a timeline, but I would certainly think that sooner rather than later would be best.
Do you know of any statutory basis for this alleged obligation to change the records?
I think the statutory regulations would, well, for New Hampshire, as I stated to you that first day I wanted to talk to you, New Hampshire requires you to change your name on your driver's license within 10 days.
Besides that, though, you don't know of any obligation for someone who is changing their name to affect that name change with a credit card company or whatever other names might be on old records?
Honestly, I probably have to look at the statutes in order to clarify. There is a potential that might fall under credit card fraud if you're continue using a no longer legal name. I don't know, I didn't review that particular statute. I know that you had failed to change your name on your credit card when you obtained your Florida driver's license. That you had, again, when you got your Florida driver's license on March 20th, you did not update your name with them, and you had not updated your name with your credit card company, even though it was almost 5 months after you actually had your name legal to change.
So, but there's no citation there as far as an RSA to require that?
The Florida, I don't recall the Florida law specifically, I know it is in my report, but Florida law, you would have been required to change your name with them as well.
I mean, but as far as, there's nothing cited there on that document as far as an RSA to, let me know that there's a time frame.
No.
If it were an actual obligation, it says it's an obligation, but if it were an actual obligation, wouldn't that information have been included in the application form rather than after the fact of, I've already changed the name legally, they are now telling me there's an obligation, but if it were an obligation with the contract, wouldn't that have been given up front?
I don't know, I have no idea.
Well, when you enter into an agreement with someone, there's usually terms. You are presented with those terms prior to signing the agreement. So if this was one of the terms, wouldn't it have made sense for it to have been presented up front?
I think most people would presume that you're still required to maintain your your prior obligations, even though you might be changing again.
It's not exactly what I was asking, but I'll move on anyway. If it were an actual obligation, wouldn't there be a time frame listed for completion?
I don't know.
Well, you know that with the New Hampshire statutes of the 10-day, that's a time frame. They give you that. It's pretty clear. When I was made aware of it, I did effect that name change quite quickly, correct?
You did make it quite quickly, but again, it was still some 4 months after you changed your name, so it wasn't within the legal time frame.
Sure, but when you made me aware of that ordinance or that statute in that case, that was when I went ahead and took care of that.
Correct.
So is it possible that I had no reason to believe there was a sense of urgency and so therefore didn't act in a speedy manner on the matter of updating my name in various places?
I don't know, I think I rely on your testimony on that.
But it would be possible.
It's possible.
When you informed me of the obligation to change my name on the license, I completed that within a relatively short period of time. I think you testified to that within the same day, correct?
Yeah, you after I notified you, you would change your name, I want to say within probably 2 hours.
And I came to see you to inform you of that.
That is correct.
Now, considering you're a person who will take me and put me in handcuffs and take away my freedom for breaking the system's rules, you could see why I responded. You would agree that you created a sense of urgency in me, correct?
I don't know if I created a sense of urgency in you, but I did inform you that you had failed to update your information within the prescribed 10-day period.
Now, when you were interviewing the ladies who were working at the DMV, did you at any point inform me that, do you know if they at any point informed me that filing for a license with my given name was illegal?
I do not know if they did that.
Is it possible that the ladies at the DMV didn't know that that was illegal?
I apologize if they did not know what was illegal.
That me getting a license under my given name was illegal?
It's possible that they did not know that you had changed your name and they were getting a license under your former name. They may not have realized that you were doing that. It's possible they, I don't know.
Just to be clear, you did talk to them about how I'd gone in on the day of the 7th. You asked, earlier there was some discussion about the 8th, but you know that I'd gone in on the day of the 7th and attempted to get the license under the name Ian Freeman.
I don't know that you were on the 7th. I know that in conversation you mentioned that you had gone in prior. I don't know exactly when that was. There was not a transaction that was processed on that day.
So your interview with the ladies at the DMV didn't uncover that information?
They were unable to recall when you had specifically met them, other than the transactions that we were able to pull back and review.
So if they didn't know that it was illegal for me to get a license under my given name, how would I know that it was illegal?
Well, they know that you're not allowed to, they're aware that it's illegal to get a license in a name that is not. Actually, I would say they are aware that you're not, I know that the DMV personnel is aware that you're not allowed to get a license in a fake name. Okay? In fact, we regularly get calls from clerks, people that are passing fraudulent documents, attempting to obtain licenses in what they believe are fake names. So they are aware that that is illegal. The fact is they may not have realized that your legal name was now changed and that you were actually providing false information to them.
Presuming I did come in as our I think you were here for the testimony of the DMV lady?
Yes.
Presuming I did come in, as was stated on the 7th, with the name Ian Freeman, then they would have known, correct, that I did change my name?
It's possible.
Am I a customer of the DMV?
That's what the DMV refers to people that come here.
Do you think it's good customer service to handcuff and arrest a customer who made a mistake and was allowed to make that mistake by one of the customer service reps?
Yes.
Not really.
So, you are aware from your research that the 7th was the day that the court gave me the paperwork finishing the legal name change process. The 7th was November.
That is correct.
Now, isn't it true that had I come into the DMV on the 6th of November, the day before that paperwork had been completed, that using my birth name to apply for the license on that day would have been completely legal?
Absolutely would have been.
Doesn't that seem kind of ridiculous to you?
It does seem ridiculous that you came in the very day after changing your name legally and applied it false name. Yes.
That's not what I meant. What I meant was, doesn't it seem ridiculous that one day it was completely legal, and then 2 days later, the same act was, misdemeanor criminal charge?
Because the name had been legally changed, so unless you provided false information. That does not seem ridiculous to me, that you provided false information. It seems ridiculous that you didn't provide the correct information one day after changing your name.
Your complaint for unsworn falsification claims I made a written statement which I did not believe to be true. Now, why would I think my birth name, why would I not think that my birth name was still true?
I would say, if we look at this form you submitted earlier, you should continuously use your new name so that there will be no confusion as to your name or identity among the public or the community of which you are a part. That's number one of the form that you gave me about information for persons obtaining a name change.
That number one does say should, not must, or you are obligated. Correct?
Should means that you should do it.
That sounds like a suggestion, doesn't it?
Well, it sounded like a pretty good suggestion to me, probably in the situation if you had.
How do you know what I believe?
I don't think I said, did I?
Well, your complaint for, I don't have it in front of me, but I can pull it up here.
Oh.
Your complaint for unsworn falsification says that I made a written statement, that I knowingly made a written statement which he did not believe to be true.
That's
So, how do you know what I believe?
because you were given paperwork by the court that had legally changed your name to Ian Freeman, and you wrote Ian Bernard on the application, thus that was not your legal name.
That doesn't answer my question.
I think that did answer your question.
That doesn't answer how you knew what I believed about what was true or not.
I think it did. You were providing information by the court that your name had
If
been
you're
legally
not happy
changed.
with his answer, you can provide additional testimony if you want.